saying Mike Raglan. Are you shorting it up, Rag? Maybe because you dress, you know what I'm saying, you dress cool or whatever. But they be like, hell no. And even when I rant, like I've heard people like jokingly say, "No, you a know it all." Like I don't know a lot of shit. The more that I go and seek knowledge, the more I realize it's a lot of shit I don't know. I know you hating that I'm up. Always 1,000 Michaels everywhere, so just always be able to go Mike Rags, you know, just stuck. That's how I came up with the Rags. My price is gone. Welcome back. I know y'all might not have missed me. Some of y'all have missed me. I've been getting some DMs about where's the podcast. But we back with a new installation of Rants, and I have a very, very special person here with me. She is Cody Short. I'll let her give a little more introduction of who she is and what it is she does here with the city. But yes, I'm happy to have you here, Cody. Welcome to Rags Rant. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I didn't know how it was special though. Thanks for that.
Stop it. You know you are. You know you are. You are a special person. You on the Rags Rant. You got to be special.
I guess that's true.
Yeah, you feel me? But so this year I wanted to make sure I did a good job of allowing people to tell them about who they are, what they do, where they can find you, so you can build your following.
Oh, so you want me to give my bio and everything?
Yeah. Well, not just your bio, but your tags or whatever however you want people to find you and things of that nature. What you got going on?
Well, I'm a Birmingham native and I work as a journalist in the city. I don't want to necessarily put my employer's name out there, but y'all can follow me on social media at Cody D on air and you'll see who I work for and everything. But yeah, I mean, I keep up with part of my work is keeping up with what's going on in the city. And then some of the work that I've done before is me discussing things that are happening in pop culture, things that are happening in the space of hip hop, because I used to work in commercial radio. So yeah.
Let me ask you a quick question. So what do you enjoy most? Do you enjoy the most, because I wouldn't say, do you do like investigative reporting now, or you just cover stories, or do you enjoy that more than the hip hop, pop culture side, or do you?
So yes, that's kind of a trick question. For me, I don't know if I would do this same type of work if I was living in Oklahoma or somewhere else. For me, my job as a journalist, I feel specifically or more personally connected to it because I'm from here. Right. So I'm able to cover things that mean something to me, my family, my friends. And, with me, I'm like a 5th generation Birminghamian. Like my family's been here for a long time. Yeah. So I feel like I'm deeply invested into the city in a way that, for me, I'm like, I want to make sure that I'm getting the correct information out there, especially because unfortunately we don't do the best job at reading, and you laugh because we've had these conversations, but it's like, it's so easy to run with what you hear or what you think is happening on the surface level. And so for me, with the work that I do, I like to ask the questions that nobody else is going to ask and use that to inform the larger community. So that's what I like. I don't know if I would feel that tied to it if I was working somewhere else doing the same type of job. In terms of the pop culture, I feel like that's ingrained in me. I've always loved celebrity culture, things that are happening, specifically in Black celebrity culture and what we take from it. Because I think for Black people in this country, so much of what pop culture is, it's more of I feel like it's more deeply connected to who we are as a people in this country than it is for other groups of people.
Right, for sure.
So for me, I always enjoy that.
Okay, well, that's good. I've always, because I'm gonna just make a little comment about the reading thing. I've always been not against reading, but I know I took some courses at Bama because I was a media management major. So I took some courses, and I just understand, especially from a program director, station manager side, that ratings and funding is a big thing too. So I know some things are worded in a way, framed in a way to where it presents like a shock. Yeah, like a shock value. Like, come click on me. Like, even if I'm stretching the truth. You know what I'm saying?
But I feel like that speaks to the difference between like local journalism and journalism that you get from like a national publication. Okay. And sometimes you even see some of that with AL.com, but for the most part, if you're reading or if you're relying on like, you know, Fox 6 News, or if you work or you listen to the station that I work at, you know, we don't tend to be clickbaity in that way. We just kind of present what the truth is, right? And we try to find an angle that's different than maybe what another person is reporting on. So
I see, that's the thing too. I think sometimes, even when it comes to sports or pop culture, not just news, not just delivering just local news, you will see writers and analysts come and speak from a place of more perspective and opinion than they will just laying the facts down. Like, they'll give you these facts, not include these facts. Of course. And so that's the trend of national media, which is why, like, I tell people, you know, people talk all the time about like how the media is I don't know, manipulating things to look a certain kind of way. And it's like, okay, why don't you hone, like, if there's something, like, for instance, the mass shooting that happened in Buffalo, right? So if you feel like there are national publications who are spinning it to sound one way, there are local journalists in Buffalo, New York, who are also covering it. Yeah. Go find those local outlets and read what they're talking about. Follow their Twitter accounts and see what they're saying. Don't rely on, if you don't trust CNN or MSNBC or Fox News, like, go see what those local journalists are doing, because they're the ones who live there and are on the ground and know the community best. Right. It can really give you true insight to how people are feeling in that area about certain things. Yeah, that's real. I guess I've always been kind of taught that too, is like, don't consume all of your news from the same side. Like, watch CNN and Fox 6, and then kind of, or if not Fox 6, but Fox News, the national Fox. And then
it's good to have different perspectives, even if the perspectives are, even if, you know, I certainly don't condone Fox News or believe in a lot of the propaganda that they give into, but it's also good to know what they're talking about at the end of the day. Yeah. You want to be aware of the different perspectives, because you don't want to be in this bubble where you only think this one way and you only have people who agree with you. Like, you want to be able to understand, why do people think this way? Like, what's the disconnect between my thought process and their thought process?
Yeah, I definitely. And that's something we need to work on as a
That doesn't mean I'm not going to think that you're stupid.
Because you definitely do. I've seen you try to really tear me down.
I don't be trying to tear you down. I just be trying to inform you, Michael, because
she gets on me.
You are very much a part of nigga logic. Like, you are a firm believer in studying and graduating from the class of nigga logic.
Because I just believe sometimes that's all you need. Like, I think sometimes we take issues and make them bigger? Too complicated, or too deep.
Give me an example.
What were we arguing about one time? Vaccinations. All right. Perfect example. This, I know we just going to go back here for a second. But like, during vaccinations, your big thing was like, Michael, just get the vaccine. All these scientists and researchers have been giving us all of this research, and all you have to do is read it and trust it. And it's just like, my thing is, I don't trust.
But why?
Because I've seen them, not just in medicine, but in food and other industries, cut corners all the time for the sake of pleasing the public. You see what I'm saying?
Give me an example of where they've cut corners.
Cut corners when it comes to food, like when it comes to how they have to prepare the food.
You mean like food production, like the fact
and how it's transported. Like, the requirements are like still very unhealthy if you look at it like from a real health and wellness standpoint. Like, the fact that we get a lot of food that has to get recalled because they don't just take the time in the forefront.
But so the way I look at it is, there's a risk with everything that we do. literally everything. Me driving to this studio is a risk.
Right.
I could possibly get into a car accident, whether it's my fault or somebody else's. It's a risk.
Right.
And so I look at it as, okay, COVID sound like some bullshit. That's not something I want to get. I don't want to get that. I don't want to live with the long-term effects of what it may be, because a lot of people are still learning about what COVID does to the human body. Right. And it varies, person to person. But I would much rather get a vaccine that is supposed to keep me safe from getting the virus and also keep me immune from possibly getting it in the future. Now, again, there's still a lot of people are still figuring out how it works long term and that kind of thing. But I would much rather take that risk than getting the risk of actually having COVID.
Well, I guess for me personally, I caught COVID early. So me catching COVID, and then I did take my first shot. It was
you're half vaccinated.
Yes, I'm.
And that half is worn out.
I'm a Pfizer. I think I did get Pfizer, and I felt worse because I got Pfizer right before I went to Memphis for Thanksgiving, because my parents were like, "Please, at least get one shot before you're around your auntie."
Your mama had to beg you. That's a shame.
Yes, and it was just and really it was my dad, but I was like, you know what? I'll try it. I said, for you all, not for me. Not for me. I don't think it's going to help me. I said, I'll try. Yeah.
It's not a new menu item.
Yes, I'll try. Yes, it is. This is that. Because it's something that you're telling me to put in my body. But I'm also the person that don't, I've taken a flu shot once in my entire life. And that was as an adult. My parents didn't make me get the flu shot. Now, vaccinations that you get when you are a kid, of course, or when you are young, first born to 2 or 3 years old.
There's vaccinations that you have to get. I think in kindergarten and 5th grade.
Well, before you even go to school, there are some vaccinations.
And I think you have to have certain vaccinations checked out before you go to college too. Yeah.
So those are the only ones that I ever took. And if I was old enough to make the decisions for myself, I probably wouldn't. I took the chickenpox vaccine when I was young, and I still caught the chickenpox. I've always been that guy. I've been that guy where a vaccine really doesn't keep me from catching anything. It just, I guess it helps, or it introduces my body to the virus.
Do you know if you were breastfed?
Yes, I was.
For a while, or?
I don't know exactly how
long. You should ask your mom. Because I feel like I'm very, I never got COVID, and I feel like I really haven't had crazy sickness. As I've gotten older, I probably get the flu once every 2 years or something like that. I stay pretty healthy, and I was breastfed for a full year. So
breastfeeding helps.
Breastfeeding is what helps long-term immunity, building your immune system, because it's coming straight from your mother. You come from your mom.
Right.
So you're building your immune system by getting
that same nutrient.
Exactly.
And I guess because then from the umbilical cord, you're getting that same nutrients from her in the stomach. So I guess it does make sense. Because I've noticed that a lot of my friends don't get, I'm not going to say I get sick a lot, but it's easy. My body can catch something quick, like sinus infections, or when it's this time of the year, I can catch those quickly. I caught COVID 2 times.
See?
And
was getting COVID worth not getting the vaccine?
Yes. Yes, it was.
No, it wasn't.
Because the only thing, the very first time I caught COVID, it was bad. And this was before they really knew what we were calling it. This was December 2019.
Oh, so you diagnosed yourself with having COVID?
So it had to be because it was right before, I got sick 2 weeks before they came out in January and said there was a disease from China that we had called COVID. So I think they knew about it.
So you feel like that's what it was. It's not confirmed.
It's not confirmed. I've only had one confirmed case of COVID where I actually took a test and I had COVID and I was feeling bad, lost sense of smell and taste for a day.
See, that's not worth it.
But it was only for a day or two. Just the same exact thing that you did.
But there are a lot of people who still have not ever recovered. They're still, they're better. They're able to go around and not pass it on to other people, but they still haven't gotten their smell and taste back.
Yeah,
and it's been months.
That's
and
true.
Like, it's like that. Like, you don't know how it's going to affect your body.
Right. But neither do we. We don't know that with the vaccine either. We don't know what the long-term effects of the vaccine are. We don't know. I mean, we see commercials all the time. If you are a family member,
you don't hear that about vaccines. You don't hear that about vaccines.
But now it's medicine.
Yeah, medicine's different, though.
I'm saying now it's medicine. Like, now they have pills. It's a pill you can take for to fight COVID. Yeah, they trying to fight to get it to where you can take, like, not daily supplements to fight it, but like they're trying to get to the point where it's like, oral. Just take your pop your pill if you feel it, the symptoms. Yeah, like they really are trying to do that. You haven't been paying attention to that?
I heard about the pill. Here's the thing with me because I work in news, I often, like, there's a lot of things that I miss, and there's also a lot of things that I just, like, I try to disconnect because I feel like sometimes I know too much and it messes with my psyche. Like, I started thinking negatively a lot, so I have to disconnect. Because
you're in the loop.
I know too much.
Yeah, you're in the loop of what.
Like, I personally, I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I need to start making real plans around if I'm going to have kids, because I got a few more years to actually do that. But then I look around and I'm like, this is not the world that I want to bring children in.
Yeah, for sure.
On top of the stuff that goes on with a woman's body to actually produce a child, I'm like, it just feels all bad. So I'm like, I don't know if I want to put my body through that. I don't know if I want to put my children through living here, And
we're gonna, before we get to that, because I do want to get to that on the hot topics. Let's quickly, because I love my city, and I always want to make sure that I can give my city some kind of shout out or spotlight. I do want to
put the spotlight on them,
and I do want to talk about certain things that are happening in the city. We have the USFL. Mm-hmm. You've been keeping up with the USFL. You know what's going on with the USFL.
Isn't Reggie Bush here?
I'm not sure. I don't think Reggie Bush is. Why'd you keep?
He was.
He probably came to a game or so.
He was here, but he was here for something.
He probably was here for a game or so.
Okay.
We got there aren't because somebody else asked me this the other day. They were like, so they got a lot of old ex-NFL players in the league. I was like, nah, it's more so
in the league?
In the USFL. Like, are there ex-players from the NFL?
No, I thought it was like people who like basically can't make it to the NFL.
Right. So it's more it's more or less like people who were like good in college. Yeah, so we can definitely say.
I mean, like G-League, or G-League.
I'm sure they wouldn't be happy to hear you say that.
Oh, well, I mean, I don't know these things,
but they are really playing.
They get paid though, right?
Yeah, they get paid.
Okay, as long as
maybe like a teacher salary. I think they get paid maybe like a teacher salary, but it is only 10 weeks. You get
the check
teacher
clears,
salary for 10 weeks. They playing all the games here, so they don't have to do a lot of travel. I think somebody was.
They've been staying at from what I heard, I think they're staying either at the Sheraton or the Westin.
I think somebody was telling me the Sheraton got a lot of floors that they have dedicated to the players. So I thought that was cool because I know when we first built Protective, a lot of people were like, "Oh, we building this stadium just for these white folks and UAB to be able to use it and only pay 20-30% on it. We paying them."
But what I never understood is like why people thought that we weren't also going to benefit from it. Like why? How did it become a white people thing?
They felt like Legion Field is our thing, and we should have just renovated Legion Field. We should have just made.
You can't. How many times can you renovate something?
Right.
How many times can you renovate something that's 500 years old?
You better stop for folks think you disrespectful.
I'm not being disrespectful. I love Legion Field. I've made so many memories at Legion Field.
Right, classic.
But
for sure.
it's old.
And that's what they were saying too. That we could have just some of that money we could have. But I'm with
a lot of people talk about things that they don't know nothing about.
Right. I was going to get into that too, or talk about things without really even showing any action or support of said thing they don't want to be.
Yeah, they don't. And then it's a lot of people who complain who are not active in. Like, there are a lot of people who complain about what leaders in the city are doing and not paying any attention to what those leaders are actually doing.
Right.
Like, you're going off of hearsay. You're going based off of what somebody else has complained about.
Right.
And there's a community of people here who I see or feel that like they're always opposing something that city leaders are doing. Yeah, it's like there's always a critique, and it's like there's no one perfect solution for everything.
For sure.
But let's recognize some of the good in what's been done. And there's a lot of that. And I feel like Protective Stadium is one of those things. Nobody wants to say it, but eventually Legion Field's not going to be here anymore.
For sure.
I mean, and that's
at some point. Let they try to make it a historic.
I don't know when.
Let they try to make it like a historic landmark or something of that nature. And I don't
maybe,
know
but
why
it takes up so much land.
I don't know why they would.
I don't know. Like, if they ever knock down Legion Field, like, I want to be there to see it, because Legion Field means so much to people in Birmingham. It does. And I'm certainly not trying to say that Legion Field is not worthy of attending to games to anymore. But eventually it's probably not going to be here anymore. And, and we need another place to be able to go. So it's better that we already have another place that's built versus it getting to the point where, like, it is literally falling apart to the point that it's like we're having to cancel all these events or games that were already scheduled for this place. And it's like, well, we realized that this isn't working, so it's not even like functional anymore. Like, you don't want it to get to that point. You want to be prepared.
Or we putting, like, okay, it's like a car. So after you had a car for a while, you can continue to just keep putting money in the car. But once you realize it's breakdown after breakdown after breakdown.
When that transmitter is done, what you gonna do? When that engine is done, you
just might as well. It's time for a new car.
Like, you keep painting the car or putting a different engine in it. Eventually, it's like you put more money into it than what it's worth.
So I think that was, and then people were like, well, I mean, my thing was always like, yeah, we have it and we don't have anything planned for it yet, but we have to have a venue in order to start filling the calendar. Like, of course,
which location you talking about?
For Protective Stadium. Like, at first people thought, so we only gonna use it from September to January, February, during like I said, during UAB's football season. They're like, no, first we have to have a venue, then we can get the USFL to say, you know what, we'll have our inaugural season, all home games there. And I think the only reason they're not having the playoffs here is because that'll be like right around the same time we're getting prepped up for the World Games, because the World Games are. I think the championship for the USFL is the 3rd in Ohio. And then
3rd of what, July?
July 3rd.
Okay.
And then we'll be opening for the World Games July 7th.
But even outside of that, this weekend, I think is what, somebody's having a concert at Protective.
I just saw
like Garth Brooks.
Big G. Yeah, it was a Big G with the stage. I think it's
Garth Brooks, and I think he's going to be at Protective.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does that mean? Now USFL is going to have their game at Legion Field today. So it's like, so that's the money, like, and that's what people have to realize. Like, the fact that there are options now, that means that Birmingham's not in a position to lose, which means that at the end of the day, the city is still gaining revenue. They're still getting that tax money. And so it makes the investment worthwhile long term.
Right. And I like the location. Like, I think we needed something in the middle of the city. Like, wow, we always having to go to the west side of Birmingham to enjoy a nice football
festivity,
game. Or some kind of big concert.
It makes sense. Yeah, it's like it's a part of the entertainment district. Like, if you go to almost any city, there's a stadium that's near some hotels, that's near restaurants. Like, every city has that, and Birmingham did not for a long time. And if we want to grow as a city, if we want to prosper, or like, there's no way the World Games would be happening here if Protective Stadium wasn't here. So, like, we have to be able to have the things in place to be able to attract those large scale events. Like, Birmingham, for the longest time, I mean, like, my whole life, we've been talking about how Birmingham needs to be like Atlanta. We need to be doing this. Like, we've always compared ourselves to Atlanta, and it's like, well, no, why don't we just focus on being Birmingham and doing the things that we need to do to be an effective city? And this is part of that. Right.
No, I'm in 100% agreement. When I found out we were building, that's what I was telling people. I was like, because they were like, so what we going to do? And I was like, I don't know. But I said, you best believe they not building this without a plan to fill the calendar. Like, and it's just a space now. It's more space that people can come in. It's really
actually nice. Like, I love driving by it.
Yeah, I like it. I like
it. It adds to the beauty of the city.
Yeah, like, especially when you're driving on the slab and you driving by, you see, like you said, whole uptown kind of. You got the Westin, the Sheraton.
It looks nice.
Top Golf right here. You got
it looks like
BJCC. Looks like
a city.
Yeah, it looks like a city that's trying to become a bigger and busier city.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it. And then to keep talking about the World Games, I've also, when I was looking up some things about it today, I also realized that Protective will hold some things, but they're gonna be using the Boutwell. They'll be using Avondale Park for certain things because they have a. So basically, the World Games. Because somebody asked me this too, so I said I would look it up. But the World Games is basically an international sporting event that covers multi-sports that aren't.
It's a part of the it's a baby umbrella under the Olympics.
So what? So yes. What? Yeah. So the international sports that the Olympics don't
cover.
The World Games does.
Exactly.
And so they have things from artistic sports. You got dancing and gymnastics. They have ball sports. They have lacrosse, flag football, which would be a Protective. I actually have a homeboy that's volunteering and is kind of organizing, getting the referees and other things.
Oh, really?
Flag football, yeah. And then floorball. Then they have precision sports, which would be at like Avondale Park. They got archery and things of that nature, bowling.
All the stuff we did in PE class.
Yeah, strength sports. They got powerlifting, and then they also have trend sports. So they got like water skis, sports climbing, orienteering. That was interesting. I did that in Boy Scouts. So it's like when you take a map and a compass, and you have to find things just using your map and the compass. Just orienteering.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's a sport.
Yes, it's under their trend sports. So yeah, I guess it is a sport now. Yeah, so
I don't plan on going any of those.
I would definitely probably go to some of the martial art events. They're going to have sumo, Muay Thai, jiu-jitsu.
I just want to go to the opening and closing ceremony.
Okay, well, the opening ceremony is July 7th, and the closing ceremony is July 17th. So you got 10 days. And
I'm not going to lie. I'm ready for it to come and go.
It's going to be crowded. It's going to be a busy.
It's going to be crowded. It's going to be traffic. There's going to be roads closed. It's going to be. I ain't going to be able to go nowhere to eat, get gas.
You live downtown, so yeah. So
I'm not. There's constantly road closures or construction that's been going on. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so ready for y'all to come and go.
Yeah. But I think this is a good springboard for
other things.
Yeah, for like, okay, they were able to hold the World Games there. Okay. Like, for example, we could talk about the last verses, the Bun B.
Yeah.
And not Bun B, but UGK and MJ.
A-Ball MJG versus Bun B, of UGK.
And they were trying to, because out where they wanted to have it. And I know Birmingham came up out of their mouth. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't want it in Houston because that's the home field. We don't want it in Memphis. What's a good place?
What's a neutral ground?
Birmingham.
Birmingham would have been perfect.
And I saw so many people coming like Birmingham doesn't have the hotel, the lodging. They don't have.
That's not true.
For a versus?
Yeah,
that's what I was like.
Y'all had to like. First of all, y'all had to like versus is the BET Awards. Like, calm down. Like, this is it don't even require we could do that here.
Like, stop playing. Like, I felt I was, and then I saw something. And I know these aren't people who live here. So by looking at the comments, somebody was saying, who would want to fly to Atlanta to have to drive 3 hours to Birmingham when you could just do it in Atlanta? I'm like, I do know we have an airport that like can bring all them folks. If they want to come on a PJ, then, they can come on a PJ.
Exactly. Yeah, and then like it's not, there are direct flights from Birmingham to Houston all the time that are cheap. Then Memphis is 3 hours away. So like who all is needing to be shipped in from New York? Y'all are acting like this is the Grammys. Calm down. This is the verses.
And I said, y'all really playing Birmingham week. Like y'all really are trying to say like.
And you know what's funny? It made me think about something because I've been so for a long time I wasn't watching reality TV, so I've jumped back into the Real Housewives franchise. And so for those out there who know anything about Housewives, I was watching the Potomac series, and one of the housewives is married to an ex-NFL player who is from Alabama. And there was a scene where they came to Birmingham because he's being inducted into the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame.
Okay, right downtown.
Right, yeah. So for those who don't know, like the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame is like right across from Protective Stadium. Right. So anyway, it was cool because this was like 2017, I think. So this was before like a lot of things got built, and it was just interesting to see the city. But I say that to say, whenever they were referencing their trip to Birmingham, it was like, oh, we went to Alabama. But you don't hear people say that when they're going to LA or when they're going to Atlanta,
yeah.
Houston, even New Orleans. Like, it's not like we went to Louisiana. No, we went to New Orleans.
Right.
We didn't go to Georgia. We went to Atlanta. So I was just like, dang, like people still just like put us, Birmingham like in Alabama instead of us giving like Birmingham its own name.
Just do, yeah. Because like, if you think about it demographically, we don't have as many people as Atlanta, but as far as like black population in a city, like top 3, I think.
Birmingham's like in the top 10 blackest cities. Yeah.
Us, Detroit. Just by like
Jackson. It's like New Orleans. I went to New Orleans, Chicago, Detroit, Jackson, DC, Atlanta, Birmingham.
Yeah, like we are up there.
Yeah. I think we all like in the same class.
So it's like give us the same, like we are not like the rest of Alabama. We are Birmingham.
Birmingham really isn't. It's really, and I don't think I realized that until I went off to college and I was meeting people from other places. Right. Or even when I was in Tuskegee and I was meeting people from Tuskegee and people who are from Montgomery. And I was like, oh, y'all are like country.
Really country.
Like, y'all are really country. Y'all ain't really been nowhere.
Right.
Like.
And I say this, like, Birmingham has a lot of hood niggas who ain't been nowhere either.
For sure.
So I guess that, but it's still not country. Like, we're not country bumpkins in Birmingham. Like,
Birmingham has always been like the biggest city in the state, so we've always attracted like different groups of people that other cities in the state have not.
Right.
So,
but even on that, we still don't have as much diversity as some of the other cities that we just mentioned. So,
yeah. I mean, there's levels to it.
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're building, we're growing. I'm happy for my city, and you know what time it is, yeah. Shout out to my boy Carson with the drop. Now let's get into some hot topics. First, let's start off on a serious tip before we get to where we're going. I do want to talk about this because it's been happening so much recently, but I do want to talk about gun violence. Now, I'm not the biggest I don't know everything about gun laws.
Okay.
I don't understand what's the hold up on changing gun laws. I don't understand the relationship between the NRA and the politicians. I don't understand why. But I do want to talk about this growing number of mass murders or mass shootings in the country. And this year they said that we've had so far 233 mass shootings. A mass shooting is anything, by most definitions, they don't have a specific definition.
Like 2 or more people getting killed?
3 or more, without including the perpetrator. So if someone comes and kills 3 people and they don't kill themselves, or even if they do kill themselves, after they kill that third person, then it is not considered a mass shooting. And I went and looked up some of the demographics on it. And of course, you know who was at the top of the list. White, middle-aged men. And they also said, well, so this is what they said. They said the proportion of the mass murders is about the same as it is with the population. So you have majority white men, when it comes to one singular group. So then you have the majority of the mass shootings being perpetrated by white men.
Right.
You have young black men. But even with those demographics, it was like the young black males and Hispanics usually attack the same within their group. That's what they said.
Right.
But when it comes to the white middle-aged men who do most of the mass murders,
it could be anybody.
It's always usually attached to a racial bias. So whether it's black people, Hispanic people, like they did in Orlando, or gay people, it's always
an attack.
It's always an attack. Where most of the other demographics is retaliation for, something within each other. So I don't understand. I think when I looked at those demographics, I did understand why they haven't changed a lot of the policies, because as long as white folks doing it the most, it's never a big thing. But like when black folks start doing it all the time, and then it's like, oh, okay, we got to stop.
You're right.
I know Dave Chappelle said it jokingly, but he was like, the only way we can get them to ban guns is if every black person who is able to buy a gun.
And I remember, I don't remember all the context and exactly what he said. But I remember a couple of years ago, Killer Mike was saying Black people need to join the NRA.
Yeah, he's like that.
We need to get our guns and join and be active participants. And he was like, things will change.
Yep.
There's no reason why we can't participate in those things.
Yep. And that's 100% true. And I don't know, because I'm not a big person where I just feel like I need a gun for protection. Like, I'm not that type of person. I do believe that, have a gun at your house, you know what I'm saying? Somebody try to come in and mess with you and your family. Protect yourself. But as far as like always needing to have your gun on you everywhere you go, and just having to feel like, oh, I'm safer now that I have my gun. I'm more of the mindset that if I feel like I need a gun there, then do I really need to be there? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but I don't necessarily think that, because some of the things that Biden suggested the other day in his gun violence, in the speech that he made after the elementary school shooting in Texas.
In Uvalde.
He said that some of the things that he suggested, a few actions that should be taken were banned on assault rifles altogether, or at least raise the legal age from 18 to 21. Ban on high capacity magazines, background checks, of course, red flag laws. I'm gonna get back to that, and then a repeal of immunity for gun manufacturers for legal liability. Those last two things, I think, are probably the two biggest things that would change it, but probably aren't gonna change it. And so, red flag laws, from what I was reading, I remember an example of the blacklist, and it was an example where they were trying to go and had this girl buy a whole bunch of guns from a single manufacturer, like 20, 30 guns by herself. And she was doing that once every 6 months. Like, why is this girl buying 30 weapons? Even if they weren't automatic weapons, why is she buying 30 guns?
Right.
And she doesn't work for a gun. She doesn't have a license to sell.
Right.
So then it's like, knowing that would be a red flag, and that would be a part of like red flag laws. If somebody's making purchases that seem like they're trying to either sell them or give them away or get them for somebody else. Yeah. To be able to flag it. And then, if we made Smith and Wesson, or just say the Buffalo shooter, whatever gun it was he used, because I'm not a big gun head. I don't know all the guns and different like that, other than Call of Duty.
Oh my God. Get that got
So whatever gun it was he was using, just imagine if they had to pay punitive damages to the survivors' families. Gun manufacturers be like, oh, okay, that gun was used, so we won't make that gun anymore. I think, but to actually get them to do that would be super hard, because it's like people have to. We're now trying to legislate responsibility,
right?
And I think that's where we can get in trouble.
Yeah, I think this is the thing that like politicians obviously are not going to admit, but also what people fail to realize is that a lot of these politicians are at the mercy of the people who have funded their campaigns and the people who they essentially work for. Right. Because like if they, and I can't give a concrete example, but it's happened because it's been documented before. Let's say Representative Joe, who represents this district in Flyover America, and in his district is the largest company in the state, right? Well, obviously, that company, if he wants to stay in office, he needs to get backed by that company. He's going to have to work with them to a certain extent. And if the things that he's doing in office is not benefiting that company, then he's not going to be able to do it, because they are the ones who are essentially keeping him in office. Right. And that's what we see happening across all levels of government. Even here, like people talk about Alabama Power as the mafia. Nothing gets done in Alabama without Alabama Power co-signing it. Right. Like absolutely nothing. Right. So, that happens everywhere. And so I haven't looked into it enough to really even know, but there's a reason why the NRA and Republicans are hand in hand with each other. And there's a reason why things are not being done to make sure that these things don't continue to happen. Right. And it's very unfortunate, and it's it's another reason why I'm like, why would I bring kids here? You know what I'm saying? Like, why would I subject children to this world, to the way this country is? And it makes you really
real ghetto out here.
Double question everything.
Nah, it's definitely real ghetto. Definitely.
Yeah.
Along with that, and then I do want to touch shortly too, and this is we're gonna tie it in together. We're gonna tie it in together. First, we're gonna speak on Kevin Samuels. Now,
why are you smiling so hard?
Because every time I've had this conversation with most women, so I can't assume, but I've had this conversation with you before, so I kind of know how you feel about it. That's why I'm smiling.
What do you think that because I think a lot of people, just go ahead.
I would assume, just from previous conversations and just watching what you've said about, especially Kevin Samuelites, who revere and honor him,
his sons.
Words. Mm-hmm. I believe that you don't, I'm not going to say you don't like him. You don't like what he does and how he does it when it comes to his image consulting and rating of women based solely on like physical and surface level things. Because he gives women somewhat of a ranking or a rating just based off of the superficial. Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming that you are one of those ones that just are like totally against that. But I just want to give this bit of perspective before you go. Because I definitely want to get a woman's point of view on it because I'm just speaking solely from a single male.
Okay.
Kevin Samuels, first off, he would have men and women alike call his show asking for advice. Mm-hmm. First thing, they would call his show asking for advice. Mm-hmm. In the process of him giving that advice, he was able to narrow it down over years of doing this, from what I've seen from different YouTube videos. A questionnaire, you know what I'm saying, that pretty much got to the basis of what a man is looking for and what a woman needs to be able to offer, and vice versa. What a woman might be looking for and what a man needs to be able to offer vice versa. Mm-hmm. When men come on there, he's usually asking about financials. Mm-hmm. He's asking, do you have a car, have a house? Well, how much money do you make? Mm-hmm. How tall are you? Mm-hmm. And he might ask how much you weigh when it came to the men, but I know it was about height and money. Mm-hmm. Then he would kind of deduce, okay, well, you are worthy of this caliber woman. Mm-hmm. If you can't do these things, though, you need to go look here elsewhere. Mm-hmm. And I feel like there was nothing wrong with that when he was doing it to the men. Mm-hmm. But as soon as he started doing it to women, it became such he's a bully. He doesn't have to talk to these women like that. And my only thing was that he could have had a better approach. But these women were reaching out to him. So they knew what they were getting themselves into. Like, I can't feel pity for someone who is looking for it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. What happens? And like, you ask for it. Mm-hmm. You ask for it. Mm-hmm. Now, do I think he was the guru on relations with men and women? No. But do I believe that he had a lot of women thinking differently? Because a lot of women would be out here with nothing else to offer but you know what I'm saying?
Looks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But even those women, if they checked all those look boxes, then he go into what you do for a living. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily for how much money, but does your career, like some girls would be working in entertainment, working around entertainers. Oh, well, then a man's not going to want that. Some women didn't want kids yet. Well, the man you're looking for. So I do like get what people like. He was just too presumptive. He was just, my word is final, finite. Is like, this is it. Mm-hmm. So I never took it as far as like, okay, but I always said, you know what though? Like, he does have a point. Like, you need to think about love as more than just the feelings and the attraction. Like, what does a person have to offer?
Right.
So what was your take on, or how did you see? That's how I saw the single male, 31. That's how I saw Kevin Samuels. What was the single, or not the single, but what was the female perspective on how Kevin Samuels would come.
I don't know what the female perspective was.
Well,
I know what my
Cody
perspective.
Short. Well, I'm sorry. You can't speak for all females. What was the?
I can't speak for all women. Why you continue to call females?
You one of them.
I'm not one of them.
I'm sorry.
Call women. You didn't just sat here and talked. You just
don't get mad.
You just sat here and said men from the single man perspective. Men thought this.
Single male perspective. From the male perspective.
Just call men and women.
I'm sorry.
It's not that
difficult.
difficult.
You can't speak for all women. I'm sorry.
It's really not that hard. Right?
No, it's not.
Okay, just a couple of extra letters in there. That's all.
I will do better.
Actually, it's the same amount of letters.
Probably not, but I will say that for this purpose.
So you asked me what were my thoughts on Kevin Samuels. So
how did it look to you?
Okay, so I'll tell you. I think I came across Kevin Samuels before he even blew up, because I think he blew up when he told that girl she was average at best, and
she thought she's maybe like a Beyonce or something.
I don't know what she thought of herself.
Yeah. I know.
She wasn't cute. I agree with that. She wasn't cute. But when I first came across Kevin Samuels' content, I thought that he was gay, and that he it made him feel good to bash women. Because I've met a lot of gay men who have issues with black women, who get off on talking down on black women or talking shit about black women. So that's what I thought he was at first. And again, this was before he blew up, right? So I tweeted this. I was just like, Kevin Samuels is gay. Like I just put that on the internet. And somebody responded and was like, well, maybe you don't like him because you're fat. And I was like, I didn't even say anything about not liking him. All I said was that he to me, he comes across like somebody who has struggled with his sexuality, and part of his struggle has been because of maybe the black women who raised him and made him feel like he couldn't be himself. Because that's a lot of what we see in the black community. If you pay, because I know you don't like to pay attention to gay people's stories, but if you paid attention to other people's stories, specifically those of the LGBTQ community, that is a common story, is that there are a lot of black men who grew up not feeling validated in who they were, and they grew up in single mother households where their mothers told them that they could not be that, or shamed them in feeling that way, and so they've grown to resent black women because of that. So that's what I thought his story was, right? Then he started to gain popularity, and I started seeing people like, repost his content online. And I'll say this much. Oh, and because I saw him before he blew up, I did see the content where early on he spoke to men specifically about what it was that they were doing, right? And I thought that what he was saying was accurate. I also thought that the things that he was saying to women was accurate too. I didn't think that anything what he was saying was wrong. However, of course, the delivery was off-putting. I feel like there's a way in which, and here's the thing, you have to ask yourself, there are a lot of people out here who create content speaking on very similar rhetoric, saying a lot of the same things that Kevin Samuels is saying. Some of that is being done by other men, and some of it is being done by women too. They're echoing the very similar messaging. Why is it that Kevin Samuels is the more popular one? Because he's degrading people and doing it, and it's seen valuable. And when did it seem more valuable? When he started doing it to black women. Because when when he was doing it to black men, it was not catching on. It was not catching on. When he started doing the black women, all of a sudden those niggas who he was shaming, the ones who was making $30,000, they was hiding their closet. They were like, oh, I don't like Kevin Samuels. But as soon as he started talking shit about black women, they liked it. Right. And men started reposting it. And what I saw myself, again, I didn't disagree with a lot of what Kevin Samuels said. I thought that what he was saying a lot of times was truthful. My issue was he was talking to people who want either he was talking to women who want what's considered a high value man, or he was talking to men who wanted a 10, right? And I saw a lot of men on the internet who were not considered high value, who would never be high value because they don't have the work ethic, the education, or the skills to ever be that. But yet they wanted to project the things that Kevin Samuels said onto other women. And it was like, excuse me, sir. You make $32,000 working at the Dollar General warehouse. Why are you talking to me about anything? So that was my issue. I felt like he created this community of black men who felt mad for whatever reason. Because I saw men who, there were some guys that I saw who have been, I guess, hurt by their baby mamas. I saw men who were divorced. I saw men of all backgrounds who would reshare this man's content, and it was just like, you're just mad, and you get joy out of telling women what they should and should not be doing. And that's honestly, in my opinion, part of the harm that's constantly being recirculated in the black community. Black women are always being told what they should and should not have to do in order to get a man. That you never hear people putting responsibility back on men as to what they should be doing. It's never, you should not be cheating. It's never, you need to get your shit together. It's never, you need to go get a job or, take care of your responsibilities. It's always like, well, why did you have a band with this? Why did you have a baby with this man that you knew that was not shit from the first place? And this is like, but he also made that decision too. There are men out here who talk about their baby mamas, and you knew she wasn't shit from there, but you don't hear that same rhetoric. It's not equal opportunity out here, and that's what my issue was. There was just a lot of bias, and it was just very clear that he was on the deep end on talking down on black women because he knew that it's going to get me the clicks, it's going to get me the views, it's going to give me the ad dollars, it's going to get me the followers. In my opinion, he sold his soul. And again, a lot of what he said, I did not disagree with. Men are very visual creatures. Y'all are, before y'all decide if y'all even like a woman, y'all are looking at her first before you even decide, is this somebody I even want to get to know? You have to be a delusional person not to understand that. So yeah, I say this, and before we close, I believe this. I agree with you in the sentiment that I'm not gonna say he sold his soul. That nigga sold his soul.
But he definitely, and I think he even made a post like before he blew up saying that all he had to do was start talking about women and he would blow up.
And he knew that. And that's why he knew that. He gave into that.
But it might have been because he knew he was dying, because when he's supposed to be having, when he's suffering from cancer. I think I just saw the interview he did with Joe Budden, maybe.
I heard that.
But he had cancer.
Oh, I do think he mentioned something about having cancer, yeah.
So I think I guess once it got to a point, and this is just me speculating, I don't know, but once it got to a point where he was just like, you know what, I'm dying anyway, he said he really became more emboldened to be.
Here's my thing, though. When he passed away, there was a lot of outrage online about how certain people were taking the announcement of his death. A lot of people felt like it was not okay for people to be, I guess, quote unquote, celebrating his death.
I was one of those people.
And I'm not, and I guess, and I can't tell you, my thing is this: you can't talk about people or talk to people a certain kind of way and expect for people to have a specific type of response. Sure. If I slap you, I can't get mad at you for slapping me back or for calling the police or whatever your reaction is.
Right.
I did that to you. I'm warranted to get whatever reaction you give back to me, fair or not fair.
100%.
And so my thing is this, like, for me, I think my issue was, and then also he was a little biased in some of the things that he would say too. Yeah. Like, he would tell women basically, like, I think the last video, if you go to his Instagram, the last video he did, there's this woman who talked about how her and her husband got a divorce. He initiated it. He's off living somewhere and claims that he can't afford nothing because he's on child support. Now, what's she supposed to do? But he was finding a way to place blame on her.
Remember that. Yeah,
he was trying to find a way to place blame on her. And I'm just like, everything is not a woman's fault.
Right.
Especially if he was the one who initiated divorce.
Right.
And then, and so it's just like, it's just the cause and effect of everything is just so real. And like, there has to be some accountability placed on him for what he's created and the dialogue that has been birthed from the things that he said and done. Because now you have men out here who are like, I don't know if I'm going to get married because women initiate 40% of the divorces that is it. Well, you're not talking about why women are initiating divorces. Are you keeping your dick to yourself?
I mean,
are you taking care of business?
I don't have to worry about none of that.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, if like you have men out here who are now wanting to put all this blame on women without looking at both sides equitably. And again, like I'm just saying, like all the cause and effects that Kevin Samuels has produced is really the issue that I have. I feel like a lot of what he said was truthful. I don't necessarily agree with the delivery, and I don't necessarily agree with some of the biases because, again, I do believe that he sold his soul. He knew that talking down on women was what was going to get him to that next level, and it did.
Well, I say this. I believe that I don't want to say that like he was biased, but I do want to think that his way of thinking was, I'm dealing with you. You are the caller that called me asking for advice. I'm not responsible for his accountability. I'm only responsible for making you realize where you weren't accountable or where your accountability lies in this situation. So if you're coming to me with and I do this with people all the time.
But sometimes there's nothing that a person can do.
It's always. That's the problem. Anytime, because like you said, there's always an action and there is a reaction. So for every choice that you made, that's an action. There's a reaction to it. Whether it didn't look like it's something that caused this, it probably did. Now, I wouldn't go as far to say as your actions were solely responsible for where you are now, but you have to just kind of look at what you did wrong instead of trying to see what they did wrong to me. You see what I'm saying? If you want to
but I feel like in certain situations, there's nothing that, like, based off of what that person is saying, sometimes there's nothing that person can actually. Sometimes there's nothing that person has actually done. You just have to move in a different way, like. In that specific situation that I'm talking about with that last video on his page, I didn't understand what she did that was wrong. And I felt like he was searching for a way to place blame on her. And I was like, in this situation, I don't think that there is any blame to be put on her. She just has to move forward maybe in a different type of way to get the solution that she's looking for. And that was my issue with him sometimes. Like, he was just always trying to find a way. Oh, nope, this is where you fucked up. Nope, this is where you fucked up. And it's just like, okay, where's the line?
This is a place where we come to agree to disagree. So I'm glad that we were able to come to the table. And you seem like you had a lot of things you want to get off your chest about.
About Kevin Samuels?
Just real quick. You did just real quick. You get off your chest real quick. But I think that this
is stuff that I've been saying about him for over a year. Yeah,
so
I
think
haven't
it was
changed
a good
my
time.
stance.
Yeah, it's a good place for healthy dialogue. Like I said, I see it one way. You see it another way. I'm not here to say whether he was right or wrong, whether you're right or wrong, whether I'm right or wrong. That's not the point. The point is just to be able to have dialogue. Hear your perspective, respect it. Mm-hmm. Hopefully you hear my perspective, and you respect it. Mm-hmm. And yes, sir, that's it for this installation of Rants. You know what time it is, yeah.